with some breaking news. The news broke during our town hall with two of the most powerful Republicans in the Senate. It involves new reporting tonight about contacts between a top Trump administration official and the Russians. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Thanks for watching, and that's where we're going to begin. The Washington Post now reporting tonight that Attorney General Jeff Sessions, when he was still a senator and an advisor to the Trump campaign, had meetings with Russia's ambassador to the U.S., but did not disclose them during his confirmation hearings. On the phone with me now is Greg Miller. Greg is a national security correspondent for the Washington Post. Greg, thank you for joining us again. I want to just tell our viewers, you're reporting tonight that Senator Jeff Sessions spoke with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. during the presidential campaign, contacts he did not disclose during his confirmation hearings. What are officials telling you?
I mean, Don, it wasn't just during the campaign. It was as recent as September, which was really at the height of the alarm in Washington about the Russian hack of the U.S. election. So it's in the middle of all that Sessions has a private meeting with the Russian ambassador in his Senate office, and just 2 or 3 months later is asked, during his confirmation hearing, did you have any contacts or any communications with Russians during the campaign, and can't remember that meeting just several months earlier.
Yeah, I have the soundbite of that. Let's listen to it, Greg.
If there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
So, Greg, he was asked about that during his confirmation hearings, and that was the exchange with Senator Al Franken. He flat out says he did not have communications with the Russians. You're saying that's not true?
That's not true. And he also, there was even aside from his spoken words during that hearing, he had to answer questions in writing, including one from Senator Leahy, where he was asked sort of categorically, did you have contacts with Russians during the campaign? The answer was just a single word, no. I mean, whether, how to characterize, what he's saying and the extent to which it is at odds with our understanding of his meetings, his spokesperson is arguing that he was meeting with this Russian ambassador in his capacity as a senator, and therefore, in his answer during the confirmation hearing, was not being misleading. I think that's going to be a difficult point of view to sell.
Yeah, but I think he was asked generally if he had any contact with Russians, during the entire event. But let's put up, this is what the spokesperson is saying. It says there's absolutely nothing misleading about his answer last year. The senator had over 25 conversations with foreign ambassadors as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. He was asked during the hearing about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign, not about meetings he took as a senator, and a member of the Armed Services Committee. So is that a distinction to you without a difference, or is this a valid explanation for not disclosing that during his confirmation? I
mean, I think he's trying to imply there that this is routine. I would just point out that in our story, we tried to assess that by contacting every member of the Senate Armed Services Committee that we could. And it's true that senators do routinely meet with ambassadors. We reached out to all 26 members and heard back from at least 19 of them. And at last count, Sessions is the only one to have met with the Russian ambassador. I mean, you're talking about a meeting that happens in the middle of an unprecedented attack by the Russian government, an alleged attack by its intelligence services on the United States election, on the 2016 presidential race. The decision to meet with the ambassador in that moment and then fail to remember that several months later is really problematic.
Okay, well, let's go through this a little bit more, because officials tell you, Greg, that Sessions did not consider those conversations relevant to the lawmakers' questions. What else did they say about it?
Well, initially they said he didn't recall that meeting when he was asked about it, the confirmation hearing, which is hard to imagine given how Russia was on at the top of the headlines every day in the fall, that he didn't anticipate a question about Russia and its ties to the Trump campaign. I think that, to his credit, his own people are acknowledging these meetings. They're not arguing that these didn't happen or making or refusing to answer questions about them, but they're just trying to navigate a pretty narrow line here by saying, look, he met with him as a senator, not as a Trump campaign person, when Sessions had been one of the first senators to sign up with the Trump campaign, had been an advisor to the Trump campaign for months and months and months by that point. And for that very reason, I mean, that was probably one of the key reasons that the Russian ambassador was seeking to meet with him.
Greg, I want to ask you this because, and I'll just read a line before I ask you this question. This is from your report. It says, in the case of the September meeting, it says, one department official who came to the defense of the Attorney General said there's just not strong recollection of what was said. That sounds almost to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the Flynn, what Flynn said about it. I just don't recall the conversations, or if we, talked about sanctions or not. I just don't recall. Does that sound similar to you, to his defense?
There is a bit of an echo there, and you're right to note that this is the same individual, Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, who had been in communication with Trump's national security advisor, who was fired just last month. So this is again a senior official in the Trump administration having having contact with this Russian ambassador and having a terrible time recalling what took place in that conversation.
Okay, and so again, I'm going to read a little bit more. It said the Washington Post contacted all 26 members of the 2016 Senate Armed Services Committee to see if any lawmakers besides Sessions met with Kislyak in 2016. Of the 19 lawmakers who responded, every senator, including Chairman John McCain, said they did not meet with the Russian ambassador last year. The other lawmakers on the panel did not respond as of Wednesday evening. So, as far as you know, no one else had any conversation with anyone from Russia at this point besides Jeff Sessions.
That's correct. And from several of these members, we were told that the reason was exactly what I was pointing to a few minutes ago, that just the optics of it would have been terrible. Because of what was happening, the Russian hacking, the information operations campaign to upend the election, I think these senators were deeply reluctant to engage with anybody from the Russian embassy.
Greg Miller from the Washington Post. Greg, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.